A very good evening to one and all present here. My name is Aishwarya, working as a Senior Business Analyst with Uber, and I am here to help you understand how you could become a business analyst. A little bit about me. I started my journey with the JNTU University in Hyderabad, graduating in 2014 in the field of computer science and engineering. Post that, I had joined Bank of America, wherein I worked with the corporate actions team in the financial operations domain. I worked for about 10 months and thought that the job was extremely stagnating, which involved just pair offs and sending notifications to the people who held securities with the Bank of America Corporation across the LATAM region. Post that, I joined Amazon, wherein I worked for about 2.5 years. While working with two different teams of last mile transportations and business operations, I realized that e commerce was the next big thing. However, working in the operations domain again, I felt the need to make a transition due to the stagnation as well as the lack of growth in this particular field. Therein, I had chosen to take a decision to enroll myself into the post graduation program with the data science and engineering in the Great Learning Institute and got myself a business analyst role at Uber. The purpose of sharing my journey with you all is to make you understand that it is not as hard as it seems to move from operations to analytics. Analytics is a field that comprises of multiple uh, I'm so sorry. Analytics is a field that comprises of a lot of components that we shall discuss in detail. And the agenda of this session is to make you all understand what is data science and an introduction to data science, the components that involve in data science, and what does it take to be a data scientist, as that is the current buzzword in the industry. Moreover, we would understand what is data analytics or business analytics for that matter, and understanding the differences between business analytics and business operations, understanding how visualization is extremely important with analytics, and finally, an overview of what it takes to be a business analyst as well as what it comprises of with respect to the tools and the skill set that it requires on your profile. Finally, towards the end, I would take up questions for career transition as well as the opportunities. Please bear in mind that this would also be with respect to the current scenarios of the pandemic growing out and the current layoffs that are happening in the industry and why you could foresee that analytics industry would still be unaffected. Moving on, trying to understand what is data science. As you see in the graph, or rather in the chart that has been prepared to identify what does data science comprise of. On the right hand side, you see that mathematics and statistics form 33.3% of what the data science core remains. The reason is statistics and mathematics had been used for trying to understand predictive analytics in the 60s and 70s. The reason that it has come into light today is because of the use of algorithms that could be automated using computer science, which you could see on the left hand side. So the components such as the programming languages and the packages associated to them, such as Python, R, so on and so forth, SAS, SQL, all of them could be used to extract, manipulate, and present data in a format that could be used to understand how it can be useful for our business decisions. Finally, we see that there is a domain and business knowledge section which comprises the rest of the third. The reason that this is extremely important is that without understanding the business problem, we cannot use computer science and mathematics to give us a certain reason. Just because we do not have a particular understanding of any of this particular domain does not mean that you would not be a data science associate. So moving on to the pointers, you have to understand that data science is an interdisciplinary field that permits you to extract information from organized or unstructured data. It means that data could be structured or unstructured. You would not have data always in the form of tables, such as in rows and columns. Data is also available in the form of images, videos, sounds, graphics, so on and so forth. So you need to understand understand that data science encompasses the usage of all these types of data formats and trying to make sense out of it. Statistics is very essential because the three attributes form the basic foundations of machine learning. The hypothesis that we need to encompass our business problems is formed using statistics. There are a number of tests that we go through or try to understand with respect to our testing in terms of confidence interval, in terms of statistical significance, and finally, with respect to whether this applies to the industry as a whole or not. Currently, you also could take an example of testing that is going on in the pandemic atmosphere. It is probably not a very good idea to test about 130 crore Indians, but using statistics, we could use the theorems of normal distribution and clustering management in order to find the positive cases and then use them as true positives and false positives and then classify them as a COVID positive or a COVID negative patient. Moving on, computer science is again essential, as I mentioned, about the usage of automations using the languages such as Python, R, SQL in order to understand how data can be extracted and manipulated. Machine learning algorithms are found in packages such as statplotln, matplotlib, and statlearn, scikit-learn in Python. Tableau, for on the other hand, is used for data visualization. So these are the concepts of computer science that could be very handy for you to be a professional working in the data science domain. Finally, business knowledge is again essential because you need to understand the problem statements in order to justify the experiments that you're working on. On this following slide, you see the components of data science, what it actually means, and how you could try to break down with respect to what are the different components. So the first one is domain expertise. Let's assume that you understand the business problem really well, but you do not know how to go about it. It still completes one third of your job because you are trying to identify a solution to a problem that you have already known. You now need the concepts of data engineering by using concepts of SQL or ETL, which stands for extract, transform, and load, where the data is stored in data warehouses. Concepts of big data, pig, hive, presto, so on and so forth are required for you to understand how each of the structures need to be used to extract the data and then work on it. You cannot extract hundreds of GBs of data immediately. That is not how you could load the server. So we write the code in terms of filtering the data and cataloging it so that we make the use of attributes that are only required for our experiments. Hence, domain expertise and data engineering are extremely connected. Moving on the left hand side, you again find statistics at the same level as data engineering. As mentioned previously, statistics would help you understand why the business problem that you are working with is significant. You could take a business problem that has 90% of data with positive rates. You do not need statistics here. Statistics would be handy when you have no idea about the data, when it is not a doctored data set, and it follows the laws of statistics such as probability, normal distribution, Z testing, hypothesis testing, confidence interval, so on and so forth. Towards the right hand side, you would see advanced computing, which is the model building step, or rather the data aggregation step, wherein you understand the business problem, you understand the data that you have required, that you have garnered to process your experiments, you have used certain statistical significance analysis so that you then use that for your particular experiment, and finally you build the data model using labeled or unlabeled data, using the concepts of supervised or unsupervised machine learning. You could use the concepts of time series and forecasting if you have time series data available with you. Finally, upon aggregating your results and performing your experiments using testing of scenarios across a period of interval of maybe 6 months or a year, you then try to visualize the data. You do a pre-visualization and a post-visualization. Your pre-visualization encompasses of visualization on the immediate raw data set in order to understand the distributions, and your post-visualization encompasses of the results that you need to identify using your past and present trends in order to make future decisions. what it takes to be a data scientist. You all know that data scientist is the job that is in demand and is considered to be the hottest job of 21st century. Why is it so called? Have you tried to understand what are the different components that a data scientist needs? I have written about 6 components that a data scientist would attribute to. But are all the 6 components required for you at this point? Probably not. Let's try and understand why I have mentioned this over here. Starting with analytics on the top right, you need to understand that analytics comprises of a number of things. You could see buzzwords such as statistics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural networks, all present in the field of analytics, and that a data scientist needs to understand. Now, try to understand that data scientist is not a computer science engineer who is going to use Python and Tableau in order to code his result and give you a visualization. That's not a data scientist. A data scientist is a person who understands the concepts of analytics and makes sense of programming languages in order to manipulate the data. He does not have to be a Python coder or an SQL expert to extract data, which you see on the left hand side of data management. However, this does not mean that they are the tools that you can forego. You need to understand that there is an overlap with the number of tools as the number of techniques that are required for a particular data scientist are to be seen in order to be one. On the right hand side, you would see art and design. What does art and design mean for a data scientist? Art and design basically means how you visualize your results, whether the expected trends follow your command with respect to the statistics involved, or the testing that you have been doing on your experiments do not show any kind of significance. These art and design concepts are to be followed by a data scientist in order to present the findings to the leadership in the most readable format, which we will speak about in the data visualization slide. In the bottom of the screen, you would see business mindset. This is considered to be one of the most important paradigms for a data scientist because without the understanding of a business mindset, you would not be able to make sense of the data. If your manager or stakeholder requires that you promote the number of eaters on your platform to increase or the number of consumers on your platform to increase, you cannot go ahead and take a data to try and understand what the sellers have been performing on in an e-commerce website. That is a completely different leg, even though it might be related, but the research goes on a completely different direction. Hence, it is important that you understand the business mindset for the current experiment that you are required to perform. On the left hand side, again, you would see computer science, which I have mentioned prior to the slides, in order to understand what all concepts are required. You need to understand that programming languages such as Python and R give you the foundational basics in order to manipulate the data and try and understand how you could break them down into pieces and try to analyze each of them. On the left hand bottom corner, again, you have growth hacking, which is again the idea to exhibit leadership qualities and find the money and try to reduce cost to your business systems and increase profitability on an overall scale. All these attribute to a successful data scientist, but again, these are not the only components of a data scientist. There could be certain components that you may forego with respect to percentages. You could be a 40% data management guy with a 50% analytics and still be a data scientist in one industry. But in another industry, you might require art and design to comprise maybe about 80 to 90% of your work. So try and understand that all of them contribute towards the data scientist role, but none of them individually could give you the title of a data scientist. Moving on, what is data analytics? On the left side, you see the screen comprising of visuals with the laptop screen showing you graphs and a lot of charts and documentation with respect to target analytics. But what does analytics mean in general? Analytics allows you to transform the data into valuable knowledge. Imagine that you have a lot of data with respect to an e-commerce website, let's say such as Amazon or Flipkart. There are a number of transactions that go on. You could probably guess into thousands, but trust me, there are millions of transactions that go on on a daily note in an e-commerce platform. So what do you do with this type of data? Can you make sense of this type of data right now? Probably not. Looking at the numbers visually, you might not make sense of it. So analytics is the path that allows you to transform data into valuable information, so that you take these data points and try to understand how your past trends and present trends could be manipulated in order to give you a good portfolio with respect to your business in the future trends. Mathematically speaking, predictive analytics uses statistics, modeling, machine learning, and computer science in order to understand how qualitative as well as quantitative predictions help your businesses grow, thereby extending profitability. Moreover, predictive analytics is extremely important because it assures the businesses that using the past trends of data and not only mere assumptions of these data points, could you use the concepts of machine learning as well as data science in order to get you to the end goal of business growth as well as increasing profitability. You could look at the slide for a moment while I check the questions that are being asked in the group. All right, so there are questions coming in, but I would suggest that I complete my slides first and then I could take up each question one by one and then answer them across. So this particular slide gives you a differentiation between business operations and business analytics. Why is business analytics so different from business operations? We'll try to find out. But try to understand that this is with respect to a very profile oriented and an industry oriented assumption that business operations are stagnated so that they cannot give you a load and growth into the business analytics field. If you are stuck into operations, does that mean that you will never be able to grow into analytics? Would you not be able to make a transition? I don't think so. And I am a live example for you. Let's try to understand the differences. Business analytics refers to the skills or technologies that practices for continuous as well as iterative exploration and investigation of past business performance to gain insights and drive business planning. What does this mean? It means that using the number of data points, maybe if you are a working professional, you would understand how Microsoft Excel is one of the most important tools that would give you loads and loads of data points spread it out into a sheet with columns and rows. But can you make any sense out of it? Probably not, just by looking at them, or probably not even by sorting them in an ascending or descending order. But what does analytics do is try to identify with respect to reiterative approaches as to what you're doing in a business operations field, which are monotonous and they follow a standardization of procedures in order to do the same task again and again. And you could see on the right hand side again that everything that happens within a company to keep it running and earning money is referred to as a business operations. So collectively, business analytics is a part of business operations. But how is business analytics different? Business operations does not necessarily mean that you use technology products, whereas business analytics uses technology in order to understand the trends and move your company further to earning those money. Again, business analytics focuses on developing new insights, whereas business operations doesn't. Business operations vary using your business types, industry, sizes. It could be meaning that a business operation for a manufacturing industry would be much more different to a healthcare industry, which would again be different to an e-commerce industry. But analytics, on the other hand, fortunately remains same, because similar data points that are present across all the industries need to be analyzed using statistical techniques, and predefined models can be used to understand trends that help your business growth. It does not really differ from an e-commerce platform to a manufacturing or a healthcare platform. However, having said that, there could be metrics that could differ. Let's say in the e-commerce platform, you could look at metrics such as trips per seller or orders per consumer in order to understand your monthly performances. Whereas in business operations, you would just see How many number of employees does your business cater to, and how many customers does your business cater to, and whether you're doing it at a regular basis or not. That's just as an example, so please don't take it literally. Finally, business analytics traditionally focuses on using a consistent set of metrics, as I've just mentioned, across different industries, and trying to understand business planning, which also is based on data and statistical methods. Hence, you understand that data is extremely important for both the sides, but data analytics is a completely different domain of business operations that require technological products in order to make the leadership give the steps and decisions to move further in the industry so that growth planning can be achieved. Finally, every team follows a standardized set of operating procedures, which are called as SOPs, as you most of you have been aware of, to reach periodic targets. The scope of improvisations of SOPs is very low. The reason that the scope is very low is because your highest executive leadership teams decide on how your factors of your businesses would work on. Hence, business analytics would encompass a lot of innovative mindsets in order to understand what are the different trends in the market and explore different possibilities that your businesses could grow with. But business operations do not allow that flexibility to you. Therefore, there is a huge difference between analytics and operations. But from an operations standpoint, you need to understand that when you feel stagnated and monotonous usage of your career, it's important that you learn technologies and move into the field of analytics. Moving on, what do you see in this slide? I have not written any points over here except for the title slide, of course. What does it mean? It means that you can understand a lot of information without bullet points, but you cannot really understand without visuals. There are visuals all across on the left hand side in the blue dashboard that you see with the blue theme. You try to understand the trends that your company has been performing. If you look at this particular chart, you see how your customers have increased with respect to their orders. If you see on this particular chart, you see the noise as well as trends with respect to the last 24 months. In the same way, you try to understand the market share that is going on, or probably the traffic that is being captured on your website with respect to the data points on the legends, how the pie chart represents it. So there are a number of charts that you see over here. On the right, you see a bar chart that represents your active customers in green, your not so your new customers in yellow, and your churned customers in red, which basically mean that in the last 28 days, this has been your trend of the e-commerce platform that you're working on. On the graph below, you see the kind of orders that are being placed with respect to your industries. The red could probably represent sellers with currently who are supplying you with essential services. Yellow could mean technology services such as your electronics and your gadgets, TVs, so on and so forth. Blue could represent medical supplies that would be required for an individual household unit. So try and understand the graph for a minute, because these dashboards help the leadership understand what kind of businesses are we looking at, and based on these units of the last 24 months, that the decision can be taken for the next 6 to 8 months of our business growth. Finally, what does analytics comprise of, and an overview. Let's go step by step. The first mood is data extraction. Guys, try and understand that in order to be a data scientist or a business analyst or a data analyst across all the domains, you have a lot of designations coming up. They more or less mean the same thing and have to do one thing in common, which is with respect to data extraction. You need to understand that a lot of data is stored in big data warehouses, and they require you to take in data analytics skills to extract data using platforms such as Pig, Hive, Presto, or Warehouse, and concepts of data extraction using languages such as SQL, Oracle, so on and so forth. So the structured query language, as the most popular one, is used to extract the data. The code is written in such a way that you extract columns using the select statement, and you give the table name using the from statement, and you give the conditions using the where statement. Obviously, not all data points are present in a single table. So you use the concepts of join. A join is basically used to identify the tables, and they are used to join two tables with a particular key called as primary key and foreign key. So it's very important that you understand data extraction for your data analysis. Next comes data cleaning. There could be a lot of null values, duplicates, NAs that need to be removed because they do not produce any analytics overline to your data set. Hence, there are multiple techniques that could be used. You could probably use an average, you could use an imputation using artificially created strings, so on and so forth. So you need to understand that a clean data will give you a clean analysis. Your data cannot be doctored. It needs to be real. It needs to follow certain statistical principles. Thirdly, you need to understand what is model building and what is the kind of model that you are looking at. Are you looking at a regression model? Are you looking at a classification model? Do you have to move into unsupervised learning or supervised learning? These are the types of decisions that you need to make upon data cleaning, thereby making your team understand what kind of a model is required and what are the kind of statistical significance tests that you need to do in order to produce the results of a model. You could very well encompass a statistics linear regression model versus a statistical logistic regression model and get two significant outputs. But you need to understand using your business problem as to which is the more important one. Fourthly, you have model selection, as I just mentioned. As I just mentioned about model selections, you could have multiple models. There's regression, there is classification, there is decision trees, there is random forest, there's clustering. There are multiple models that could be built out. But it's important to understand what is the champion model selection. And mind you all, a champion model selection does not mean the model with the highest accuracy. It means the model with the highest efficiency, which comprises of accuracy as well as reachability. Last but not the least, I'm so sorry. Finally, there is a concept of forecasts, which tries to identify how we take the past trends and understand with respect to certain error rates and noises and estimates, can we use our model to forecast the results of how the trends could be, thereby understanding that if a particular trend is being followed for the last 6 months, what is that will hold good in the next 3 months or in the next 6 months that can be changed in order to reduce our costs as well as increase the areas of profitability. Lastly, but not the least, you would have visualization that would again be divided into pre and post, as I have mentioned earlier, which would be first with respect to data cleaning and understanding what kind of trends does your data follow. And finally, with respect to using concepts of Tableau and Power BI or probably tools such as Google Data Studio in order to understand how your business has been performing and getting to present to your leadership a various number of dashboards. On the bottom half of the screen, you would see the most popular tools that are required for you to be an analytics expert. As mentioned repetitively across multiple domains and websites, as well as by me in this presentation, SQL, Python, Tableau, G Suite, visualization, automations, machine learning, statistical analysis are are the basic concepts that a particular data science associate needs to be familiar with. We cannot really put a number to every tool that is mentioned over here, but from a business standpoint and from an analytics associate standpoint, I would say that a knowledge of SQL is extremely important. So I would give it a 30% to 40% weightage. Python is one of the most popular languages that is being used currently in the industry. So again, you need to understand that there is about 30 to 40% weightage given to Python. Tableau could again vary. If you're looking at a job that looks at Tableau developer or a visualization consultant expert, then you need to understand that a 95 to 97% weightage would be given to Tableau. Other than these, you need to understand the concepts of machine learning and statistical analysis, as your foundational data science courses, because without the concepts of statistics, you cannot really be a data analyst. It's hard, but it's the truth. You need to go through statistical theory points before making a practical business experiment to come into picture. On the bottom left of the screen, you see a term called automation. This is not probably covered at a lot of places, but I would give my 2 cents as to what automation does. Automation is defined as any process that is currently being done manually and it can be scheduled to be run at a periodic interval, could be an hourly, a monthly, a daily, or a yearly task that the computer is being made to do on its own. By computer, I do not mean your physical laptop, but the server. A set of commands that can be run by your server is represented to be an automation. Also, it comprises of using concepts such as web scraping, text mining, sentiment analysis repetitively, which means recursively across time frames, in order to help the industry and your particular businesses grow and move forward. So automations are extremely important because business operations as a whole can comprise of 60 to 70% scope in automation, and once the automation kicks in, there is no requirement of that particular team. So all the associates who are currently viewing this session, please be reminded and advised that if you are working in a monotonously used standardization of procedures team, your team can be automated, and probably you might give them a suggestion, but it could lead to a real threat to your job. Hence, analytics expert would be the person who would which would really help your profile. And hence, I request that you seriously think about moving into analytics. So we have come to the end of our presentation from my end with respect to how analytics, data science, as well as a business analyst performs his duties with respect to visualization as well as statistical understanding and model building. And now I would be moving on to the questions that are being asked in the group. So the first question is, I want to ask people who are from non-technical background, it is very difficult for them to be a data engineer or a data scientist. But can they become a data scientist or a business analyst or a BI analyst? This was asked by Ravi Sharma. Ravi, as you can see my profile, I have come in from a computer science engineering background, but for about 3.5 to 4 years, I was in a non-technical industry. Honestly speaking, I didn't even concentrate much in the field of computer science while I was pursuing my education. So try to understand that it's all about focusing on the new language that you would be learning. It does not require that you come from a technical background, because the concepts of object oriented programming have not changed across the last 20-25 years, and that would be taught to you in the next 6 months or 8 months. It's not that my whole engineering was comprised only of programming languages. There were a lot of algorithms that I had gone through. There were a lot of significant other subjects which would have been made sense if I would have been into development as a unit, but I am not. And hence, a lot of those subjects do not make sense to me. Therefore, coming in from a technical background or from a non technical background does not have to justify with you being a data science associate. I could give you a multiple number of profiles who are from a BBA, BCom, LLB, as well as architectural backgrounds who have come and transitioned into the field of analytics. The reason is you need to focus on Python as a programming language to understand the basic concepts of OOPS. You need to understand the concept of SQL by understanding how data is stored in tables, and understand statistics that would help you understand machine learning concepts. So there's no scope of being technical over here. I hope that answers your question. Moving on, Saxena has asked, Chanchal Saxena has asked, should people from non-science, non-technical backgrounds still stay engaged? Absolutely. Why not, Chanchal? Can you please tell me Does it mean that all the business analysts, experts, or all the analytics consultant coming from only BTech or BE backgrounds? There are a number of people who are not from BTech and BE backgrounds. At my class, to be very honest with you, I'll tell you, you could verify it with the forum again. In my class of 35 odd students, there were only 3 to 4 people who came in from a computer science background. There were a lot of people from civil, mechanical, electrical, BCom, as well as BBA backgrounds who still managed to back successful jobs in the industry. So try and understand that this is not this is just a myth and not a reality that you need to be from a science or a technical background. Moving on, is business analyst and data analyst same? This was asked by Nidhi. So Nidhi, there is a very slight difference between business analyst and data analyst with respect to the kind of work they do. A data analyst is more focused on the data side, trying to understand how his data can help the business grow, whereas a business analyst is more focused on the business problem side, and then he extracts the data points in order to understand how he helps his business grow. You could see that by my definition, both of them sounded really similar. So you could take it this way that data analyst focuses 60% on data and 40% on business, while a business analyst focuses 60% on business and 40% on data. The 10% gap that I'm talking about is with representation of models and the outcomes on PPTs and decks as to how they can be made significant. But more or less across the industry, I could work with Uber as a business analyst, but I could work with Amazon for the same role as a data analyst. So honestly speaking, virtually there is no difference present. I'm going to skip one question from Ravi again because you have asked having knowledge of coding is a must or not. I have just answered that. What prospect does a mechanical stream guy has for a business analyst, especially in ops and supply chain management? Asked by Mr. Abhay. Abhay, it's a very good thing that you have asked specifically with respect to mechanical domain. So if you're looking for a supply chain management, you already have the business domain of mechanicals because you understand that there is a lot of moving parts, and as a mechanical student, you must have a knowledge of moving parts. Again, that is nowhere going to be related to you being a successful data analyst if you do not understand how you can use technology tools such as Python and SQL to your advantage. You could carry in absolutely no information using your mechanical background and still study these tools and get into whichever industry that you feel to move into. You can move into healthcare, e-commerce, logistics, supply chain. It really does not make a difference. You could honestly verify that with top leaders in the executive leadership teams across any industry. What are the branches of mathematics that are useful for data analytics? Fantastic question by Ridhima. So, Ridhima, the first branch is statistics, which comes under mathematics, but technically speaking, statistics is a whole different subject. But yes, broadly, it is considered to be a part of mathematical sciences. Probability and estimations are are two of the most important topics that you need to understand because they form the basis of furthermore concepts such as confidence intervals, hypothesis testing, as well as business creations of models using business experiments. So business statistics is something that you could really look into if you're considered as to where you could start with respect to mathematical foundations. You could also, however, have a look at Mathematical Foundation for Computer Science as a book, which in no way is related to computer science concepts of coding, but it gives you logical as well as relational algebraic terms that you can use or that mathematics uses in order to improve your understanding. If you are from a engineering background, you would remember true and false will give you false, true or true will give you true, true or false will give you true. So the and or not conditions, so on and so forth, that would be really helpful. So mathematical foundations are extremely important for you to be a good data analyst. Can you please explain the concept of reachability of a champion model? Sushant Bindra. So Sushant, reachability means the target customer base. See, I'm keeping this with respect to, let's say, an e-commerce platform wherein a number of people need to be identified who would come in and buy from your shop or rather from your website. Let's say hypothetically you are an owner of xyz.com that deals into e-commerce. So your idea is to obviously increase the sellers as well as the customers on your platform. Only then your website is profitable. Now there is a concept of web marketing, digital marketing, and analytics marketing that comes into picture. Let's say that you are sending out emails that cost you 1 paisa per email. Does that mean that you will randomly send emails to 15 crore or 20 crore website viewers of your platform? Probably not. That would be a huge cost. Now champion model selection could comprise of, if you're using a model, let's say classification model that classifies a potential customer versus a non-potential customer using a 1 and 0 concept, versus a clustering model that clusters people with respect to potential buyers and non-potential buyers. You need to understand between these two models, where would you put your marketing team? You could right now debate with me whether clustering is a better option or classification is, but it requires statistical analysis to understand which of them is the better model to go ahead with. I hope that answers that. The difference between business intelligence analyst and business analyst, asked by Santosh Patel. Firstly, there is a title difference, Santosh. Different industries use different titles, as mentioned to Ms. Chanchal with respect to two different titles of business analyst and data analyst. So the third title is business intelligence analyst. However, on a more broader term, a business intelligence analyst works on the format of Tableau or Power BI or Google Data Studio in order to primarily understand how intelligent usage of data with respect to representation on charts and graphs and decks could be helpful for the leadership to take further decisions. The analytics and insights, particularly, could be termed as business intelligence. I am a supply chain management professional, asked by Manasvi. I am interested in how I can incorporate analytics vertical in my domain. How can data analytics help me find and solve business problems? Apologies for okay, no problem. So, Manasvi, as you are a supply chain management professional, I understand that you would have excellent knowledge with respect to your domain. Now, supply chain management comprises of multiple units such as inventory management, labor management. It could be with respect to hourly wages management. There could be multiple things. So, a data with respect to, let's say, how analytics can be implemented with optimal usage of resources. This is just an example. It could be meaning multiple things in multiple industries. Let's say that you have 200 employees working in a shift from 9 to 5. Optimal usage with respect to productivity can be managed using analytics. You need to understand how many orders are being shipped out in a particular hour. So your orders per hour would help you understand the productivity per hour. And then with respect to that, you can identify staffing. So a number of people who are required to be in that hour can be employed, and the others can actually be asked to work in different hours where their productivity can be increased. This is just one example. Secondly, with respect to transportation, if you are having a 100-acre campus, and let's say that every truck of yours acquires about 1 acre, just being very mathematically insignificant over here, but does that mean you will become too optimistic and ambitious and get all 100 trucks at once? Does that mean that all shipments will go at one time? It would create a lot of chaos. So, in order to identify the optimal usage of your resources, analytics is a very important factor. How is data analytics profile for a person who has no experience? Lohit, trust me, this is one of the best things that you have asked me, because all of us who are experienced are slightly conditioned. But for a fresher, it would be extremely easy for you to transition into the field because you do not have a previous field. So moving from 0 to 100 is much more easier rather than moving from 0 to X and then from X to 100. Now, in this case, X could be 50 for some of us and X could be minus 75 for some of us, in a completely different domain. So the path of moving from absolutely no background prior to this with respect to analytics is extremely easy. because now all you need to do is learn your tools, and your mind is not conditioned with respect to what all previous experiences that you have carried. So again, this is not a negative thing, but please do not, the people who are experienced, do not take it negatively, because it acquires and applies to everyone on a very subjective note. And this is particularly for Lohit. What can I do to my resume so that it stands out for a data science profile for a fresher? Mridul, this is again a good question with respect to how resume building is extremely important. Firstly, my 2 cents: keep your resume at a one pager. Unless you have studied in an institute that requires you to mention projects, that could probably go to 2 pages. Uh, Again, I would like to signify the importance of the course that I did with Great Learning. People from IIMs, ISB, and Great Lakes Institute of Management, the top level professors had come in and helped us design a resume. And trust me, about 15 to 17 companies that were on the campus had all shortlisted us only because of our resumes. Obviously, I did not convert in 15 companies, but the point is, at least I was shortlisted. So you need to understand that your resume is your profile, is your first impression. So resume building is extremely important, and a very crisp, short-sighted principle is required for you to put on your resume only the important points that you would like to highlight to your recruiter. If you're applying for a job such as data science consultant, you really would not want to identify and portray projects done in your engineering that deal with some kind of, probably refrigeration, or you have built a automation model with respect to an automobile. So try and understand that it requires that you target the right projects with respect to the right recruiters as the job description persists. How to apply if you're a fresher? As I see, most of the company wants 2 to 3 years experience. Mujtaba Sheikh. Mujtaba, this is a very industry oriented question that you have asked me. Not all companies want to take in 2 to 3 years experienced. Again, even with respect to 2 to 3 years experience, you would see that a lot of people would require Python, SQL, and Tableau in their profile. So now let's say that I am 3 years experienced and you're not. Let's say that I am a BTech computer science engineer and you're not. You come in from a BBA or a BCom background. The fact of the matter is, if I do not have Python, SQL, and maybe let's say Excel knowledge in my profile, but you exhibit all of them along with additional certifications done with respect to data science, you tell me logically, would the company hire an experienced professional such as me with 3 years experience, or with you with no experience but a complete knowledge of your domain with respect to the technological tools? So again, you need to target the jobs that are available with respect to your resume. In continuation to the point I just mentioned, can you give us real-time example of Uber? How and what you do you analyze and its outcome? Jitu. Okay, thank you, Jitu, for asking me about my profile. So I'll give you a slight distinction between what I did before Uber and what I am doing after I joined Uber. Before Uber, my work was to identify branded, counterfeit branded products on the catalogs of Amazon, as well as do back office operations for the last mile transportations in the Amazon technology space, at two different times. So I was in a completely operations oriented field where I had an SOP where I followed standardized procedures and tried to identify what are the fallacies with respect to true positives and false positives. And that was it. I had to consolidate that and present it to my team. And we were stacked based on stack ranking. And we were then probably given your yearly hikes and whatever. There was no scope of improvement of these procedures because there was no scope of data analysis. At Uber, as soon as I joined, I was given a list of tables. I was given an SQL training that I had to go through. I was fortunate enough to go through a Python training as well. And I had to understand how automations could work. So my primary task as a business analyst stood at data extraction, data analysis, and then automation building. And I am really fortunate enough that I have learned all of these things at Great Lakes Data Science course, because it gave me the edge. Just because I am from Amazon, Uber did not select me. That was not at all the case. My interview with Uber was also extremely grilling, and all the concepts that I learned at my data science course were being asked in the interview, and hence it was cakewalk for me particularly. With respect to what I work at Uber, I worked with the Uber Eats team in the restaurant operations. So we had three wings. First is the restaurant side, second is the courier side, and third is the eater side. Obviously, eater goes to the app, orders from a restaurant, and the couriers bring it to the eater. That's the business model, obviously. I worked with the restaurant analytics group and tried to identify across the Indian subcontinent along with Sri Lanka, Bangladesh teams as to how we could improve restaurant businesses. Unfortunately, Uber Eats India was, it was a different story altogether that we had to sell that out. And then I was promoted because of my work as an analytics associate. So now you try to understand the point that I'm telling you. Even though Uber Eats India was sold out, my work and my significant contributions as a business analyst helped me promote myself to move into the analytics space of regional ops. And currently, I'm working with the APAC analytics for Uber Eats. So, regardless of what kind of companies and the products are present in the market, if you keep doing your analytics in a way that your leadership approves of it and appreciates you, you would be in the industry extremely safe and you would reach better heights with respect to growth. And it's very important that you keep learning. After joining Uber, I then started understanding the importance of business domain knowledge. And today, I could speak a lot about maybe e-commerce and maybe even retail and even the concept of how different wings can be analyzed using different set of metrics. So yeah, that's pretty much about me and my profile. I'm from a sales domain with 9 years experience. Kindly advise options for changeover. Uh, Arnold Vijay. So hi Arnold, it's a fantastic thing that you are listening to me. With 9 years experience, you surely have a lot of domain knowledge with respect to sales, and clearly, I would tell you that sales analytics is the best industry that you would want to move into. I honestly recommend that you check out the courses with respect to business analytics and business intelligence targeted at improving professionals with more than 5 years experience. And that could really help your domain knowledge, and which will basically make your domain knowledge healthy, and try to understand how analytics could be used in terms of getting metrics and generating it to your leadership. So, sales analytics and marketing analytics would definitely be a green signal from my end as a business analyst. What is the main difference at the first? What are the main challenges at the at the first stage of a business analyst or a data analyst? Asked by Miss Zali Ayub. So, with respect to the challenges, as I have previously mentioned, Zali, you need to be very focused and determined that you need to do something with respect to your career. Try to understand that analytics is the next big revolution. It's the industry revolution 4.0. Your world is moving towards Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, automations, and data analytics and business intelligence, so on and so forth. So you need to understand that you need to pick a set of tools. In my opinion, if you're a fresher, I'm not really sure. Maybe if you're less than 3 to 5 years experienced, please go ahead, work on Python, R, SQL, statistics, MFCS, as I've mentioned, mathematical foundations. Use statistics theory in order to understand how it could help you take different charges of digital economy, and then target the industry that you're working at. The main challenges that people face is understanding the business problem. When a business problem is given to you, try to break it down into simple pieces. Then try to visualize each piece of that data that you're extracting. You cannot extract a restaurant database even though it comprises of eater data when you are looking at how you want to cohort the eaters, particularly with respect to eats, let's say. So try to understand the business problem and then work on the business domain using analytics. That would be my 2 cents on it. After having data science skills as well as equipped with the required tools, how does one start, or where does one start in the job market? After you have done so many things with respect to your tools and your projects, I think the next step is to move on to LinkedIn. From if you are not from a institute that is providing you placement assistance, then definitely move on to LinkedIn, reach out to professionals. Keep in mind that you should add at least 10 to 12 professionals daily. That's a very average sort of a number, but do it and make it a habit. I used to do it, even while I was at Amazon, even though when I was not looking for a career switch. So add people and try to look at their articles and try to understand what kind of job opportunities do they present in their domains. There are multiple recruiters that you can get in touch with via LinkedIn, Naukri. You could take up subscriptions as well, LinkedIn Premium and Naukri Premium. I'm not boasting about them, but for some cases they do actually work. There's a website called Glassdoor, but again, all of these will work if you have matter consolidated in your head. You need to be extremely adamant as well as determined as well as full of knowledge in order to display your effectiveness in the job market. The one reason, as a recruiter, I am also a part of the recruitment team. I filter out about 100 to 200 resumes per quarter. A quarter stands for 3 months, for those of you who don't know, per quarter. And we try to recruit people. And the worst part of this activity is that people do not understand the significance of their resume. Even though they come from top institutes providing a lot of data science knowledge and with respect to their curriculum, there are spelling mistakes on their resume. I cannot accept spelling mistakes. I really cannot accept spelling mistakes. And these are the kind of things that multiple recruiters and multiple business analysts look at with respect to hiring new talent. If you make a spelling mistake today on your resume, you could make a spelling mistake tomorrow on the leadership deck that could be viewed by the CEO or CFO of your company. So try and understand that an overall soft skill as well as a hard skill development is extremely required. Secondly, just as I mentioned that as an analyst, I look at targeting consumers, you need to target recruiters and potential job employers. Thirdly, do the projects that make a difference and not just copy paste it from Kaggle or Google or GitHub. It's important on a different note that you have Kaggle and GitHub profiles to show that you are technically attributed. But try and understand that you need to keep refining your profile and getting in touch with people so as to make that impact on your career growth. Sorry if I was too descriptive. I'll move on to the next question. After having data science skills, okay, this was done. I'm so sorry. What's the difference between business analyst, BI analyst, analytics consultant? Arjun, I have given this, I think, 3 times now. Please refer to the video again if you want. Can you please explain the difference between analytics and business analyst? It's the same thing, Vinayak. Please, I will not be repeating that. Should I quit my current job to pursue machine learning or data science? How did you pursue? See, I'm not going to comment on whether you should be someone who has done something like me, but honestly, I would say that there are multiple channels that you could use while keeping your job. You could go ahead with the online course which is being provided by leading institutes such as Great Lakes, or you could do something like me. I after 3.5 years of all experience, I decided to quit my job because it was not making any sense for me to move ahead in that field, and I knew that about 1.5 year from now this process could be automated and I would be kicked out anyway. On a different note, yes, that process has been automated today. It has been broken down into 6 different processes, out of which 4 processes have been automated and people have been fired. I'm not going to name the company, but this has happened already. So try and understand that restructuring is something that you cannot control. Hence it is important that if you feel today currently you are not making a lot of uh, money as well as a lot of passion with respect to your job, and you see that this is not something that you would want to move ahead in the future, then it is important that you have a switch into the analytics industry with or without quitting your job. I really do not want to comment on whether you as a person should do it because I have not got a chance to look at your profile. I, on the other hand, quit my job. So I'm a marketing professional with 5 years experience. How would you think would be my journey from from my current profile to data analyst Vinod Nair? Mr. Vinod Nair, As you are experienced for about 5 years in the marketing field, you would have already got a chance to look at how different teams of your company would work. Let's say with respect to advertising or with respect to consumer targeting, consumer behavior, analysis of the channels which you are using for advertising, and multiple so on and so forth things that you could target with respect to the channels of marketing. So it would ideally be significant if you move into business analytics using your marketing domain knowledge. There are a set of tools that you could go ahead and try and understand with respect to data extraction as well as data analysis that would help you transition as a data analyst for a marketing field. Now, this is purely because you are experienced at 5 to 6 years. This would be extremely helpful for you. Otherwise, on a different note, you could study all these tools and move into sales analytics or logistics and global supply chain analytics as well. So these are the open industries that you can look at. Now, marketing is a very big word in terms of its own industry. So you could even think of e-commerce as well as digital platforms in order to move ahead. But coming to manufacturing industry that already has a marketing field, there you would be able to replace a 10 member or a 20 member team who are monotonously using the current traditional practices. So all in all, it would be a win-win with respect to whichever industry you want to choose. So that's pretty much about it. So someone has Mridul has asked, can you give examples of sales analytics profiles with respect to some industry and companies? So I am really not sure with respect to who is going to hire a sales analytics, because the company is into sales. Every company is into sales, and every company is going to probably look at someone who can improve their sales, Mridul. It's not like you would be, targeting industry that is purely into sales. There is no industry that is purely into sales. There are two types of industry. One, with respect to management studies, there are two types of industry. One is a product based, second is a service based. Even in product based and service based, you could classify them both again as digital and traditional. So what is the difference between digital and traditional? Digital encompasses of practices that are being used to involve technological improvisations in order to understand how analytics can be helpful using concepts such as machine learning or visualizations. Whereas traditional basically means that you have a daily file created on an Excel sheet that is being saved in some C drive location of your computer on your personal hard drive, and then you're doing those analytics again and analysis of data, and trying to get some input out of it using some Excel function, which may help you or which may not even help you either. So there are different companies that look at it that way. With respect to sales, particularly, every company hires and is moving towards the sales analytics. You see, with respect to the current pandemic, everyone, even now, I am working from home. So you don't expect that traditionally there are people who are going to go and do sales physically, right? It's not like because you're a sales expert right now, you can't go to people and market your product to them trying to make a sale and achieve your target. You have to go digital because that's the way. TCS has announced that 75% of its workforce is going to be working work from home virtually in the next 5 years. What does that mean? Does it mean that you want to be into traditional sales in the next 5 years? Probably not. When giants are moving into the digital practices, it's important that you take up digital practices of analytics using such amazing platforms of great learning, so on and so forth, and help yourself get a better career in the analytics domain. I hope that answers your question. If someone has, okay, interesting question here. If someone has 18 lakhs per annum salary and changing stream to become ML engineer, will he get offer greater than this? Nishant Kumar. Nishant, I'll tell you something. Let's assume that you are from IIM Calcutta. Let's just assume. And assume that you are someone who is recruited by a company with 18 lakhs and your variable component is a separate thing altogether. Does that mean that you will be in a safe position after 2 months if your company is starting to lay off? Does your IIM Calcutta signify your job position at this point? Probably not, because you may not have a digital edge over someone else who's not from an IIM but still has a digital edge over you. So try and understand that money is something that you need to think with a 3 year or a 5 year vision. Money is going to be there because machine learning and AI are the next big things. So you will be someone who will be in demand. Today you are at 18, tomorrow you might be at 25. But if you are not looking to move ahead in the analytics sphere, then your 18 could be stagnated and you would just be moving with 10%, which moves from 18 to 19 and 19 to 20. And that's my honest industrial opinion. So think about it that way. Don't put a number to it. This is to make you understand that all of you who are listening to me, you have to have a 3 year or a 5 year vision in your mind. This is not something that you need to expect after immediately 6 months ke baad mein what will happen. Something like that. That attitude will not work. You have to understand that you have to have a very determined, patient, and a very sophisticated approach towards being a data science associate. There are a number of companies hiring data scientists with absolutely no experience as a fresher. Do you think that the companies are justifying? Probably not. There are companies who are willing to give you a data scientist title because they see that you have all the knowledge that is needed for your business growth. Whereas on a different scale, let's say someone had asked me just now who was about 5 years experienced in marketing and wanted to move into analytics. Does that mean that he'll get a science associate or a data analyst position? Probably not. Again, so it depends on the kind of profile that you carry, the kind of experience that you carry, with the kind of work that you're currently doing, whether 18 lakhs justify to that sort of a role that you're moving into. So I think that would be my answer to your question, Nishant. All right. I think we can end the session as most of your questions has been answered. It was lovely talking to all of you. Thank you for your time. Have a great weekend ahead, and please be safe wherever you are. Goodbye.